This is my opinion. I really didn't like the iPhone 12 Pro. The 13 Pro fixed many of the shortcomings, but the iPhone 14 Pro has the smartest upgrade in iPhones. Apple has improved or added exactly the things that in my opinion makes the iPhone 14 Pro the most valuable flagship and the most complete phone of 2022. You will see what I mean during the video. So, let's the video. The design of iPhone 14 Pro has not changed much. The phone weighs 200 grams and is 7.9mm thick and has a size of 6.1 inches. The Pro model is much more comfortable than the Pro Max model, and this is completely felt. The weight and flat frame of the Pro Max is so annoying that if the battery is not your first priority, I don't think it makes sense to buy it. The overall design and the frame of the Pro model is also flat, but due to its lightness and the smaller size, it is a really comfortable phone. The material of the device has not changed, and the back panel is protected with matte glass, and the front panel is protected with ceramic shield glass, and the frame is made of shiny stainless steel. And in addition to high resistance, it gives you the feeling of a premium and luxury product. Like all iPhones, the iPhone 14 Pro has IP68 and is completely resistant to water and dust. The design of the back panel is the same as previous 3 generations. Also, the triangle arrangement of the camera has caused the lenses to have the smallest distance from each other, and the main reason for the extremely smooth zoom and zoom back of the iPhone is exactly this, so it is logical for me. But in the front panel, most of the sensors went under the display, and only the Face ID sensors and the selfie camera are placed in the capsule above the screen, which is actually 2 capsules that Apple has blacked out between the 2 by software and called them Dynamic Island. Companies name everything. Anyway, Apple has considered animations for this capsule hole that are really fluid and creative, and these animations are displayed when ringing, notifying, listening to music in the background, and opening the phone with Face ID. By tapping on the island, you enter the displayed app, and with a long press, the app opens as a window at the top. Apple's Dynamic Island is really attractive, creative, and smooth, but I personally still prefer the full screen display, and don't say Dynamic Island anymore in my life. The iPhone 14 Pro display is of Super Retina XDR OLED with a density of 460 ppi, which supports HDR10 and Dolby Vision content. The quality and depth of colors in this display are fantastic. The fact is that the calibration on iPhones are really great and the colors are incredibly accurate. In the iPhone 13 Pro, the brightness was good, but it was not at the level of the competitors. But in the iPhone 14 Pro, you have 2000 nits brightness, which even on the sunniest days, the content inside is completely clear. The refresh rate of the display has not changed and is still 120Hz. But now it is more dynamic and can decrease to 1Hz. Of course, only in always on display mode. Yes, this feature finally came to iPhones in Apple's way. In the iPhone's always on display, you see the lock screen with low light and the clock comes forward from behind the subject, and the transition between the lock screen and always on display is smooth. You cannot apply any personalization on it, and you can only turn it off or on, and it is not as attractive. If you turn the phone upside down or put it in your pocket or leave the room with Apple Watch, always on display will be disabled. The brightness of the display in this mode is a little higher than expected, and you may think that your phone is on. Apple has also reset the display to prevent burn-in without you noticing. Apple has tried very hard to place this feature on iPhones in a super optimized way, but its activation increased the battery consumption more than expected. In terms of security, iPhone 14 Pro uses Face ID like previous generations, which has great security and speed, but you may ask if it is worth this big hole on the screen. I must say that Apple's care a lot about AR and camera capabilities, and the main reason for the great selfie portraits, and emoji and perfect face filters of iPhones is the sensor. iPhone 14 Pro has the biggest camera upgrade. The main lens is now 48 megapixels and the size of the sensor has increased by 50%. The ultra-wide and telephoto lenses are 12 megapixels, but their sensor have been upgraded. LiDAR sensor completes this camera system, and iPhone 14 Pro uses new photonic engine image processing. Companies name everything, but simply only image processing has improved. By default, the photos of the main lens are recorded at 12 megapixels, with pixel binning technology, so that the shutter speed is lower and more light hits the pixels. The photos with the main lens have a great dynamic range, the colors are close to reality, and the detail and sharpness are excellent. But the white balance is a bit warm, like previous generation. With the main lens, you can also record 48 megapixels pro raw photos, which for editors and professionals, I can only say it's wonderful. Raw colors, high details, and wonderful dynamic range. Apple does not pay much attention to that a photo in one condition and with one lens is great, but tries to balance the user experience and photos in different conditions with different lenses. We also see the same in iPhone 14 Pro. The ultra-wide photos have a wide viewing angle, the colors are close to reality, and the dynamic range is also excellent for this type of lens. The details of the photos are high and the noise is controlled. Due to having autofocus, you can record macro photos with ultra-wide lens. Macro shots seem to have a different processing and feel than ultra-wide shots. The colors are slightly exaggerated and the details and contrast are great, and overall the macros are quite satisfactory like previous generation. The photos with a 3x telephoto also show good details, the colors are not like the main lens but are quite acceptable, and the noise is not too much. Due to the main 48 megapixel sensor, Apple has also added a 2x feature, which is just the crop of the sensor and nothing special happens. Portrait photos are recorded with 1x and 2x zoom and with the help of the LiDAR sensor. In most cases, the subject is perfectly separated from the background and the blurring of the background is very natural and pleasant. Of course, because of the large sensor, the background blur is created naturally, and by the way, it is so good that you may not use portrait. The photos have improved a lot in night mode, because in addition to the larger sensor that absorbs more light and lower shutter speed, the new processing system has also helped. In the night mode photos, the detail and light of the dark parts are increased and the dynamic range and contrast are also excellent. Apple has tried to make the photos full of details and at the same time natural. Samsung also has a good night mode performance, but Samsung makes the black sky blue. The 12 megapixel selfie camera of the iPhone 14 Pro is now bigger and equipped with autofocus, so that no one is out of focus in group selfies. The dynamic range of the selfies is acceptable, the processing of colors and faces is excellent, but in bad lighting conditions, the photos are noisy. In terms of videography, like previous generation, you can record 4K 60 frames per second video with all lenses. But with the main lens you can record 8K video at 30 frames per second. And ProRes video recording and cinematic mode are now improved due to new chip and new image processing system. As you know, the performance of iPhone sensor shift is great, but Apple has added a new feature called action mode, which increases the stabilization by cropping the sensor, which is only for videos with extremely high vibration. This feature is not new and it exists in Android phones with different names, but the iPhone 14 Pro does it with a little less quality reduction. In terms of hardware, this year only Pro models are equipped with a 16 Bionic processor, and Apple has finally upgraded the RAM to LPDDR5. Also, the RAM memory is still 6GB. You don't see much difference in performance compared to the previous generation. Even Apple didn't compare it with last year's processor. But this is not a sign of A16 Bionic's weakness at all, and as always, it can be called the most powerful mobile processor. There is no heavy work in the phone that this processor cannot do easily and without lag. This year, Apple has focused on increasing performance stability and optimal consumption. And now, compared to the previous generation, you will experience less heating. But like all phones, it gets hot during long and heavy use. But in general, the iPhone 14 Pro offers the best processing performance as always, and even the weakness of its RAM has been eliminated. iPhone 14 Pro is available in 128GB to 1TB version, and its memory type is NVMe SSD and super fast. Now the SIM card tray is no longer on USA iPhones, and it is only available with eSIM. In terms of hardware, Apple has also added two features that I hope you will never need. The first one called crash detection, which can detect the accident by using the new gyroscope and make an SOS call by itself. The next feature is satellite SOS. If you are lost in a place, you go somewhere or wait for the weather to clean, then with the help of the user interface, you place the phone in the front of satellite for up to 5 minutes to transmit your information till you will be helped. Of course, the second feature will be deactivated after 2 years and you have to buy its subscription. Also, Both features are only active in USA and Canada. There is no doubt that these features are great. Nice job, Apple. But how smart it was to add these features. You may never have this problem, but this feature become one of the big reasons to buy. Even if this feature is not the reason for your purchase, you know, it gives you a sense of security that maybe other phones can't. In terms of software, iPhone 14 Pro comes with iOS 16 and has at least 5 years of software support. You probably know everything about iOS: a smooth user interface, low lag, and highly compatible with hardware, and with super smooth animations, and of course, closed. Apps are much more synced on iPhones than Android and offers a better user experience. But the new thing I would like to say is that by buying an Apple product, you fall into the trap of Apple products. Why? Communication with other phones is difficult. For a good experience of an accessory, you must buy the Apple version. It is very difficult to connect the iPhone to Windows computers, and the green bubble is an important issue. You buy the iPhones and its accessories, and now it's hard to change. I'm not saying that Apple's ecosystem is bad. By the way, it's wonderful. But you know, trap is trap. The battery of the 14 Pro is not at the level of the 14 Pro Max, because you choose less weight and a smaller size and a more comfortable phone. But the battery performance in this phone is also excellent, due to less consuming processor and super optimized software. And you can use it for a full day with semi-heavy use with only the 3200 mAh battery of this device. There is no charger inside the box because you know Apple cares a lot about the environment and not looking for more profit at all. But with Apple's official 20-watt charger, it takes 70 minutes to fully charge. iPhone speakers have always been one of the best, and in the iPhone 14 Pro stereo speakers, you will experience high volume with excellent sound separation, and the sound has relatively good bass and is not too sharp. Finally, the iPhone 14 Pro is really a low defect phone, and if you plan to buy a flagship, I don't say it's one of the best choices. Because if Apple's limitation don't bother you and you don't want to leave the Apple ecosystem, maybe this is the best choice. I'm not a fan of Apple at all, and I said in the beginning of the video, I didn't like the iPhone 12 Pro, but the 14 Pro is really great. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, like it, and if you like my content, subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in next video.